Welcome everybody that came to this discussion. As you, I guess, already know, the topic of today's discussion is lasting peace in Ukraine, what must we Europeans do? And in Ukraine, not only its own fate is decided, is at stake, but also the future of Europe's security and support for Ukraine is our strategic interest. So in this discussion, we will explore what is the European strategy for Ukraine's success and how to create conditions for long-term peace, stability, security, and everything else in Ukraine. And today's participants of these discussions are Olga Nikitchenko, Ambassador of Ukraine to Lithuania. Next to me sits Marius Vaščega, Head of European Commission Representation in Lithuania. Then Sigitas Mitkus, Vice Minister of Foreign Affairs. Deividas Matulionis, Chief Advisor to the President of National Security Affairs. And then Magnus Hjortdal, Deputy Head of Mission at the Embassy of Denmark in Lithuania. And I am Greta Klimkaitė, Delphi journalist, and I will be the moderator of this discussion. So, first of all, I think that it's very important to define and explain what we are talking about. So, dear Ambassador, I have the first question for you. How would you define what we should mean when we say lasting peace in Ukraine? What it would look like?
Thank you. First of all, when we say about just and long lasting peace, I would like to say that peace in Ukraine would mean security for the whole Europe and actually for the whole world, for the whole democratic world. When we say about peace, we mean that our people live in peace. Our people are not waking up by the missile sirens. Our people are not being killed by the Russians. We mean that we keep the integrity and the sovereignty of Ukraine, and our territories are not on the table to be discussed in the talks about peace. So basically, I would say that peace would mean Russia leaving us alone and getting the hell out of our country.
It's a long way till that.
It is a long way till that, but as you see, and the whole world sees, that Ukraine is more than ready for all kinds of the diplomatic efforts, and we have been saying this all over again, and we are very, very thankful for the leadership of the United States in this dimension. But also, as you all can see, Putin does not show any sign of wanting peace, any sign of wanting to meet actually with my president. Well, personally, I think he is very deeply afraid of that. But we are more than ready. Nobody wants this war to end more than Ukrainians, and I want everybody to know this and to understand this, because living in the conditions Ukrainians live now, it is impossible. Even though after all of the attacks, people would, not wake up in the morning because they haven't slept all night, but they will, take a shower and go to work. Everything is functioning, everything. And, I saw this picture from Thursday, because we had, I think you all saw this, we had a huge attack on Kiev from Wednesday to Thursday night. And then so in the morning at 10 a.m., somebody took a picture from the street, which was most under attack, and there was a hair place, a hair salon. And so all of the windows are broken, but the hair salon is functioning. So there are people having haircuts. So this is how Ukrainians function. So this is, we still do. But we don't want to be functioning in such a way. So nobody wants peace again more than us. But for us, peace has to be just, and peace has to be dignified. And this is what I was talking about before. We do not sell our territories. We do not negotiate that. And we want the aggressor to be brought to justice. We just don't want them just to leave and say, okay, fine, we are, done. We want them to be brought to justice. We want them to be, frozen money and the frozen assets Russian. We want them to be a part of the rebuilding of Ukraine, because we have a lot to rebuild and recover. So basically, yes.
Later we will discuss what should happen after some kind of a peace agreement would be made. But first of all, I think it's very important to talk about the current situation and where we are currently at in this pursuit of peace. So what is your view?
Currently, it's neither Ukraine losing nor Russia winning. Okay, so this is what the Russians try to show the world is they are great, is that they are greater, is that they are stronger, is that they are winning this war. This is not the case. Okay, so what they can be, some of the tactical wins that they might be having. This does not alter the course of the war. So they are also paying a very high price for that. So now we're kind of stuck in this situation where we have to sit down and talk, and which is my president is talking about, is that he is ready for the leaders meeting, and that all of the negotiations and the talks should be now happening at the leaders level, because all that we have been having before, the only advantage or the only asset or the only plus we have got from that is we have started to talk more about exchange of the prisoners of war, and this is also very important for us because Ukraine values life of its people. But no decisions can be made on that level, because people coming from Russia are not entitled to be making any decisions. So it doesn't make sense. This is just talks, and we have been having a lot of talks, lately, and right now we do believe that we need not the talks but the actions actually to happen. So,
yeah, Mr. Hjortdal, I would like to ask you, what is your opinion about what would be the most realistic, the most achievable end state for this conflict that would ensure the lasting peace and rather than just temporary ceasefire?
That's a very vital question. I think first and foremost it's up for Ukraine to define that, as Olga is also saying. It is not up for anyone else. So we are simply supporting, I think from the EU's point of view, as Danish presidency this half year, and Denmark, we support what Ukraine is suggesting on their own, and we think that's the most essential part. But when it then comes to what would have to be in place to achieve a lasting peace that you're asking, it would ensure one out of two or three things. One, which is not very realistic, is that Russia somehow would take, have the debate inside their country that Germany had after the Second World War. That's probably not very realistic on the short term. When that cannot happen, we need simply a little bit more primitive, credible deterrence of Russia. Because that's the only thing that can then ensure a free Ukraine. So that is what we are all working for.
Mr. Mitkus, what if Russia refuses to engage in any peace talks, in any discussions, negotiations? What's then? How to reach some kind of agreement?
I think that the most important thing is to respect Ukrainians' will and positions. And Ukrainians have to decide on their future. And in this regard, we fully support Ukraine on all those issues related to achieving long-lasting peace, also on accountability issues, frozen assets, and European integration path. Today and day after tomorrow, there will be meetings in Copenhagen, and our Minister for Foreign Affairs and myself, I also will be going to Copenhagen on Monday, and Ministers for European Affairs will discuss ways and means how to ensure continuation of the support to Ukraine, and we will talk about issues related to gradual integration, sectoral integration, integration to single market, also under Lithuanian, by the way, Lithuanian initiative, we have started discussions on informal process of the preparation of draft common positions, and we really want to unlock the accession talks with Ukraine and to open first cluster as soon as possible. And of course, we are considering different options, including the discussions in the format of EU26, trying to ensure a sustainable way of Ukraine towards European Union.
At the moment, there are negotiations and talks about what security guarantees would be ensured for Ukraine. It's the main topic currently. And Mr. Matulionis, in your view, how those guarantees should look like, and is it possible now to guess to what extent the United States would engage in this process, because we already heard many different scenarios?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. I would like to start saying that regardless of all difficulties, we should be thankful to American efforts, relentless efforts to bring peace to Ukraine. We should not be so, how to say, simply accepting that American flattering approach to Putin is a change of American policy towards Russia. It's not so simple. It's, you know, sometimes we accept this media opinion that President Trump is more pro-Russian than pro-Ukrainian. It's not true. And Alaska meeting was not, in my view, not very successful because it was useful only for Putin. He got a stage. He got a stage as equal, I mean, partner to United States. And then he promised a lot. And but we know Putin is how to say it. He is a dangerous but also very slippery guy. He promised something, but then his collaborators, they are withdrawing all those promises, and then we are in the square one or square zero situation again, and there is no meeting planned between Zelensky and Putin, and it shows that. And our tactics, Baltic tactics, European tactics is good. And there are three elements in it. First, boosting military support to Ukraine, much more than we are doing now. Even buying from United States, this new initiative, of course, it's very good, and we should be part of it, and Denmark is part of it. Second element is to increase economic pressure on Russia. We should not accept Russian propaganda that economic pressure doesn't have any effect. sooner or later Russian economy will start crumbling. This is the second point. The third point, I agree with Sigitas, with the Deputy Minister. We should move fast on EU accession path. This is not only integration into the West, but it's also security guarantee. When it comes to the additional security guarantees which are in the discussion, this is issue still very, how to say, vague. It's not very clear what kind of security guarantees will be given. But we should not repeat a mistake of 1994 Budapest Memorandum. There were some oral, and not oral, but political security guarantees, and therefore I fully 100% accept President Zelensky's approach that this should be legally binding security guarantees, whatever it is, Article 5 or some other security guarantees. But we are always very consistent that membership in NATO is the best security guarantee for Ukraine, and we will continue that. But if there is no consensus, we need to find a compromise which would be acceptable to Ukraine and would give a real security guarantees. It's important for Ukraine, it's important for Europe and for the whole world.
We will talk about lasting peace in Ukraine, but now we're discussing, analyzing what is happening now. And Mr. Matulionis, in your view, for how long those discussions, those trying to reach the agreement on security guarantees might take? How long will it take?
First, in Alaska, it seemed that President Putin said, okay, we accept security guarantees. But then Minister Lavrov said, no, there will be no NATO allies troops in Ukrainian territory. We should speak about Chinese or some and Russian troops. I mean, we should also ensure security of Ukraine with Russian troop presence. You know, he immediately denied, I mean, this idea and simply throw it out, I mean, into the garbage. And then we should really do it in the European context. There is a so-called group of coalition of willing, and they are, I mean, preparing some sort of mission type presence in Ukraine after the peace deal is signed. But if Putin is serious, first of all, we need to speak about ceasefire. I have not seen any peace deal without first step being a ceasefire. This is a sign that both sides are really interested in having a peace deal. But now somehow we are again speaking about peace deal. But you know, Russia and Japan still doesn't have a peace deal. Should we wait? How many? 8 years already passed? It's a difficult question. I cannot be very specific on exact, I mean, form and framework of this security guarantees and presence of European troops in Ukraine. Of course, it's very good that Americans recently said that we will be part of it. I cannot disclose the details, but they are doing that. This is not just a statement. This is a practical, I mean, approach.
There's a question about even Lithuanian troops. We saw different approaches from different politicians, even in Lithuania, in the country where it seems everybody understands the risks, the important, and how Russia works. But still, we have these discussions as well.
Yes, we have this discussion, but just imagine if there is, I mean, call to participate in some sort of forces, and Lithuania is saying, no, we will not participate. Can we imagine that? One of the biggest political and practical support of Ukraine? Well, there will be our participation with boots on the ground, with some military people, with training activities. I cannot be very specific now, but I hope that the new government will also agree on this, and I'm almost certain about that.
Almost certain.
You know, still government is not in place. The new prime minister will start in the middle of September, then we will see.
Mr. Vaščega, in terms of guarantees and so on, what Europeans can offer, because there's a lot of critique from the US and even from the Europe inside that Europe does not enough and so on. It's too dependent on the United States. But there are a lot of efforts to change that. So what our Europeans are capable, even without the US?
Thank you. Thank you very much. Well, first of all, I will come to the question, but first of all, let me express admiration for what Ukraine is doing and what Ukrainians are doing, for all the fight which you are taking. 1,283 days already. Each day they're facing attacks. Each day they have to withstand that. And this is really admirable, because at the same time you are also managing to make the reforms and to be closer to Europe in that sense, because one of the things which will come at a certain moment, of course, is Ukraine's accession to the EU. Now, second thing, let me give also a bit of a context here, because it really matters. Just a couple of days ago, there was a strike on Kiev, one of the strikes, because it happens practically every day, right? Which hit also, not directly, but 50 meters from the EU delegation in Kiev. And you know, when you think of this and when you're speaking about peace, these two things simply do not go together. How can you be going for and really seriously speaking about peace when you are actually touching upon directly, practically, I mean, it's very difficult to imagine that this would have been an accident, also the EU. So I think we have to keep that in mind. We have to keep that in mind, and with that, we have to actually double down on what we're doing. And here I'm coming to your question, in fact, and to some critique which has been heard, which sometimes is founded, perhaps, because we are 27. There is no secret that EU, sometimes it is difficult to reach an agreement. But I think what we should concentrate is not on words or disagreements, but on what we have actually achieved. And here I must say a few things. First is the support to Ukraine. And here, EU is the biggest supporter of the Ukraine. And I'm speaking not just the EU as institutions. I'm speaking of the EU, of the 27, of all the member states, Lithuania including, Denmark including, and everybody else. So this we always have to keep in mind. EU is the biggest supporter, if you calculate that into euros, dollars, whichever currency, is the biggest supporter of Ukraine. Secondly, we have achieved 18 rounds of sanctions, and in this tent here yesterday we have had a good discussion on sanctions, on you know, which might also, of course, be looked from various angles, that they do not necessarily achieve always what we want to achieve. But the question one should be asking oneself is, what would situation be if there wouldn't be sanctions? So. And there, everybody agrees that it would be much, much worse. So we must continue with that as well. And of course, then we have to continue talking, and here I have to agree completely with Mr. Matulionis on the security guarantees, and also increasing our own capacities to provide those guarantees. Because when we are speaking about the initiatives of Mr. Kubilius and Kaja Kallas at the European Union on all these defense, rearm Europe plans with 800 billion of additional funding coming to the countries of the European Union, among them 150 billion of loans for specifically for defense industry. I think we are doing exactly, we are improving our own capabilities to actually, to provide those security guarantees in the future, also to defend ourselves.
Yeah, we'll come back to those rearm Europe and so on later a bit more, but now the question for Ambassador, because we heard the perspective, European perspective on security guarantees, but it's very important what the Ukrainians think and what do you actually want, and what guarantees do you see as the most important, what needs to be done?
Thank you for the question, and I agree very much with what Mr. Matulionis is saying about the three pillars or the three-way approaches, right? But if we talk directly about security guarantees, not just legally binding, right? Because Budapest memorandum was also legally binding. Everybody signed and said yay, but also the practical implementation of that. So the air defense, the anti-drones, the artillery, the long-range missiles, this all has to be stationed. This all has to be in Ukraine for it to be really some of the security guarantees. As for the also, we do believe, as well as you do, and as well as Europe does, the cheapest, well, let's be practical, right? That the cheapest and the best way of giving security guarantees to Ukraine is making it a part of NATO. So this is the basics, and this is what we hold to.
There's a question about something like the first article of NATO, but that it should be created something similar when...
Fifth article, right?
Yes, fifth article, in order to be able to defend Ukraine. So how do you see that question?
Article 5 makes sure that it's attack on one means attack on everybody. So yes, it does make sense. Yeah, it does make sense. So it does make sense. So if it is legally binding, and if we actually have all of the military support and all of the military machinery in Ukraine, so that we can actually defend ourselves as well. Well, yeah, but as you rightly said, there are a lot of talks now about it. So there is no one single way that everybody agreed to what it should look like. So for us, again, the best way is to be a part of NATO and to have all of the military machinery in Ukraine to be able to, defend ourselves and, if necessary, strike back. Because Russia understands only the voice or the language of strength, power, and pressure. They do not understand, talks or like negotiations. What they understand is that they can be hit back. That's it.
Mm-hmm. It's really hard to prognose something, and nobody knows what to expect next from Russia, and how will these peace talks will go, and what will be decided. But in case some kind of peace agreement is reached, what's next? Mr. Hjortdal, how do you imagine that? What will be the role of Europe? Because we should talk more about Europe, because the United States want Europe to act more. And even when we talk about security guarantees, all the weight is on Europe's shoulders, as we can see now.
No, of course, it's a question that is connected with several different answers. One, which I think has been mentioned already, is that we will have to probably build up a military mission that can also assist Ukraine, and that is being planned as well, both from a European point of view and with a US role, which Mr. Matulionis also mentioned, and that's going to be crucial, I think, no matter what. But of course, in order to do that in an adequate way, it also relates to the general defense industry and defense spendings of Europe, because right now I think we have some countries that would maybe even like to buy more military material right now, but they simply cannot get it, or not fast enough. So this is also connected with some of these issues, both in order to defend ourselves, but also in order to defend Ukraine. You know, at the beginning of the full-scale invasion, Denmark, for example, we gave simply our whole artillery away to Ukraine at the time. Of course, we are trying to get new artillery, and we have succeeded to some extent. But this is just also a fact of it, that of course we try to assist Ukraine with everything we can, but on the other hand, we also need, and I don't need to tell people here in Lithuania about that, but you of course also need to be able to defend yourself. Or in Danish terms, we don't need so much to defend ourselves, we also need to assist especially the Baltics, if it would be necessary. And of course the Baltic Sea in general, which is a big priority to us. So everything is connected. It's about politically having will to put in troops in Ukraine. That's a decision. That's a big decision, of course, for countries. But also simply to have the necessary military industry to back it up. Also on a longer term, if there would be need to have it for a long time.
Mm-hmm. And now we have to talk, as you mentioned, Rearm Europe, Readiness 2030. It's very huge ambition for European Union, and in your view, how might it change the situation in Europe, the military preparedness, the defense industry, and so on? How it should look like in 2030, or maybe even earlier?
Yes. I think maybe also to come back a little bit on these peace things, you know, what springs to my mind, and maybe we should always keep, you know, some historic perspective, because history does not repeat itself, but you know, it very often rhymes. So, and looking from the European perspective, we had 2 world wars which have started in Europe, and we have 2 very different endings to them. One is the First World War, which led to the second one, and we have then the Second World War, which led actually to the birth of the European Union and to actually really increasing prosperity. So this is what we always have to keep in mind when we are thinking about peace. 2 different pieces were actually made in those moments, and that is super important, I think. Now, to come back to the readiness, because we are not there yet. Of course, the peace talks are ongoing, but we are not there yet. And Commissioner Kubilius, who is the first defense industry commissioner in Europe, I think this is already a huge sign, was to have such a portfolio, and you know, it really shows political ambition, and it really shows how concentrated Europe is on deterring the threats which are there. Because you know, Ukraine and helping Ukraine is not only our moral obligation, it's also our strategic objective. And with that strategic objective, it goes further. It goes to the to our defense capabilities. Now, I think it changes a lot now. Europe was always considered as a project of peace, and it is still a project of peace, project for prosperity. You know, some years ago we have never been thinking that we will be needing to now increase our security via European instruments, but here we are. Every crisis is an opportunity. So with this crisis, we are also taking it as an opportunity. And Europe is, by the way, very good at solving crises. This is, you know, our common crisis-solving instrument. So I think all this additional money, it will certainly supercharge capabilities of the member states. And I hear that the 150 billion of euros of loans, which have been offered to the member states, is a popular instrument. We will hear soon about it, but I can't give more details. But it is a popular instrument. So it is already changing. But not only that, you have many other things which are being thrown into it. We have the European Investment Bank, which is also stepping in. And by the way, also for Lithuania on some projects, but of course the colleagues representing Lithuania can develop more on that. So the landscape is really changing. And I am certain that this Readiness 2030 is coming to fruition. We are really delivering. Okay, it's just the beginning, but we are already delivering. And even constantly talking about that, you know, it gives us self-confidence that we are able to do things. Talking and also delivering with the new initiatives, it gives us that self-confidence.
Mr. Mitkus, how do you see the prospects of Europe to prepare for defending itself, helping to defend for Ukraine? Because nobody wants to come back to that situation that we saw when the war in Ukraine began. There were no ammunition and no capabilities to get it fast and so on. Everything was very dependent on the United States, and we mentioned, so is that really can be changed?
Talking about defense and security sector, so this sector has become #1 priority for all of us. And practically in each and every meeting in Brussels, we are discussing issues related to defense and security, and with the Commission's initiatives, for example, like preparedness strategy, also safe regulation, the discussions on how to attract private money into the defense and security sector. Here in Lithuania, we have calculated that we would need 300 million euros for ensuring protection of our national critical infrastructure. Here I'm talking about hospitals, about water supply, about bridges and all the facilities. So a huge amount of money, but all the governments in the European Union are determined to invest money. And we are talking also about defense union in the European Union, but we do understand that the financing gap is huge, and we need a lot of money coming both from public and private sector. Marius mentioned European Investment Bank. Yes, we applied for €500 million loan from European Investment Bank to invest into the military facilities in Lithuania. There will be 2 huge projects financed by European Investment Bank. Talking about fragmentation in our defense sector, it's a problem, and we need to talk about standards in defense and security sector. We need to expand our financial capacities inside the European Union in order to finance all the projects related to defense sector. Without, for example, states' investments into equity, we will not be able to reach scalability. And a very good example in Lithuania we have is investments related to Rheinmetall. So with the investments from the state, with the combination with the private money, we will be able to implement very good project in Lithuania.
Mr. Matulionis, what do you think about this perspective for Europe to be better prepared and to be prepared properly, and not a bit better or something like that? And how do you see the possibilities for Lithuania in this context? Because we are in a critical geopolitical situation.
Well, thank you very much. A good question, and I would like to start with the old saying: "If you want peace, prepare for war." This is also relevant to European Union. European Union was and still is economic might. It's second biggest economic power in the world, but militarily it's still not. I wouldn't describe, but anyway, it's a problem. It's a big problem. And we should not think that today we are capable to defend Europe without American presence. We agree, and this is a common position within NATO, that this so-called burden shift from American domination in the defense and deterrence towards more European, it's a very good, and we accept that, and all European countries accept that. But at the moment, if America would say, no, we are leaving Europe, then we will have a big problem. We have a lot of gaps in our defense when it comes to European countries. Unfortunately, after 1990, European countries and European Union was thinking that we are living a period of peace dividends and we don't need to invest a lot into defense. And also Lithuania was part of it. I don't want to remind what was between 2008 2010, how much we spent for defense. Well, this is a bigger problem and we need more time. And it's great that European Union is doing now big effort to boost European defense industry. And it's also political will in the countries of European Union to spend more for defense. There is a political will in some countries, but there is still lack of political will in others. And there is no, I mean, how to say, directive or regulation on defense spending which would enforce more defense spending. But it would be great if we would be able to do it. And what we we're doing, we need to I agree fully with that we need to boost European defense industry, and Lithuania is doing from its part a lot, and we are creating as attractive as possible conditions for defense industry, and Lithuania is spending I hope that next year Lithuania will be #1 on spending for defense. There is estimation that we will spend 5.25%, and this is a huge increase if you compare our defense spending 10 years ago. And what we have in mind, we will invest a lot into building of our infantry division. We will be investing a lot into air defense, and this is priority #1. And we will also invest into strengthening of border defense. It's not border protection, but border defense. It's so-called counter mobility and fortifications. And now the new subject is to create effective counter-drone defense system. And also we are learning from Ukraine in this respect, I must admit. Well, a lot of tasks ahead of us, and we also need to invest into infrastructure, and Deputy Minister mentioned that 1.7 billion euros will be invested into military infrastructure necessary for deployment on permanent basis of German brigade. And besides that, there are some other issues related to investment into infrastructure. This is a huge task ahead of us, and we are proud that we are among the leaders in this respect.
But still, am I right? As I heard you speaking, you're a bit skeptical about the European possibilities to be more ready.
I'm skeptical about strategic autonomy ideas. If we speak, we should speak European, strengthening European pillar in NATO. We cannot and we should not, how to say, reinvent the bicycle. In other words, NATO has military planning, NATO has command and control system, existing network, and America is in, and we should keep it. if we think that Europe should take over, then it's a long-term project. But now we should strengthen European pillar in NATO. As I said, burden shift, less American, more European, but within NATO.
Because Americans expect Europe to do that.
Well, this is logical because, you know, Europe lived last 80 years on the basis of American security guarantees. And that was one of the reasons, you know, not only security guarantees, but also Marshall Plan, we should not forget that. America helped to rebuild Europe after the Second World War. And we should be thankful, even now, 80 years passed, but we should not criticize America so much. And I'm trying to be still very pro-American in this respect.
Mr. Hjortdal, what is your point of view in these capabilities of Europe and the realistic capabilities? You know, we talk a lot about what Europe should do and so on, but what is on the plate for real? Because we should always have in a corner of mind that there are many different countries with different views and so on.
Well, there are actually during our presidency, we will do our utmost effort to bring real legislation into life, also on especially European defense, and there are some very concrete things that will come out of it. I think in the next months and before the new year, especially, we really hope so. So you should be able to hopefully see some very concrete decisions that can assist us in everything that is also being described here. And I think within the EU, it is not going in the direction, of course we still need to provide that point, which was just mentioned. It isn't going in the direction that the EU should replace NATO on these things, but the EU has a lot of power in the building up of companies and defense industries and all these elements. So in that regard, EU can play a very, very crucial role in our joint defense. And of course, when it comes to our broader military alliance, Lithuania, Denmark, we share this. Then of course it's NATO that is our primary military alliance. But within NATO completely, the EU needs to step up very, very rapidly. And of course, the US is our very closest ally. But there is an expectation that we also step up ourselves. So the Americans are also asking us to do it. Whereas maybe 10 years ago, it was a little bit different. If the Europe would try to be stronger in itself, then the Americans will be, well, are you trying to do something here? We don't understand. So it's very different today, I feel. So in that respect, we shouldn't only look at that as a bad thing. Maybe that is actually maybe in itself a positive thing. And maybe it was unnatural that the US was providing so much security for so long in Europe. I think this is something we are also increasingly understanding today.
Ambassador Nikitchenko, in this context, we can hear a lot from the Ukraine's perspective, some critique for European allies that they can do more, but maybe there's a lack, as Mr. Matulionis mentioned, of political will. So how Ukraine sees the possibilities for the European Union, for Europe countries to prepare for, I don't know, to something that might happen later, and to be able to promise Ukraine to help, to be able to defend themselves and so on.
Well, first of all, and I usually start from this, but as we are kind of wrapping up, I'm going to end from this. A huge thank you, deepest gratitude from me personally, from the people of Ukraine and from the country of Ukraine, to all our friends and allies, especially to Lithuania, of course, because what the amount of the political support and of the military support, to, you know, in the percentage we have gotten from the state of Lithuania and from the people of Lithuania, open their, you know, doors and their hearts to our people, to make them feel like, oh, home here is enormous and it is huge, and we will always remember that, and we will always value that, and it was always remain in our hearts. Also, huge thank you to other EU states, and actually I woke up to the news this morning from Denmark saying that US has approved the sending of the Patriots for $8.5 billion, I think. So part of it is, I believe, well, it's not like mentioned directly, but still that part of it will go into Ukraine. So that we thank very much. And for the Danish model that has been functioning greatly in terms of the support, in terms of military support, this is also a great system, let's say, that you have worked out for us. Going back to your question, it has been not a wake-up call, but a final call for Europe, the way President Trump chose to review the situation happening in the world. So it has been tough, yes, and but we were not always on the same page, but I would agree with Mr. Matulionis here as well, that should not be criticized in so much in terms of how they chose to do it, and we really value all of the efforts that they are putting now into reaching peace and into actually getting security guarantees for Ukraine. It's also very valued. So I do believe Europe has a huge, potential. I won't be mentioning figures now because I'm afraid to go wrong. But come on, there are 27 countries, 28 here. You can count us in as well. So with all of the capacities that we have, and I say we as Europe because I strongly believe we are already a part of it, even if it's not official yet. I do believe that we can stand up for ourselves, and I do believe that we can help each other in the for us as the separate countries, but also helping each other, helping our neighbors in need, and helping our European community in need. EU is it was formed and it was thought of the union without borders. So it would be really nice if it is kept this way, and the no borders actually mean all of the share that we share, all of the good things, but all of the bad things as well. But I do have very strong faith in Europe and in all of us. So.
Mr. Vaščega, you are the one to answer to all the skepticism, all the critique and fears. And there is another question: if some kind of peace agreement is reached and so on, what if people in Europe, some European countries decided, okay, we have peace now? May it be harder to reach more? To do more in Europe because there's no danger maybe in some people's mind, but as we know, it's not the case with Russia, with Lithuanians geopolitical situation. It's not for Ukraine, but maybe some views in Europe may change.
But that is why we are advocating and we are striving for peace which would not be some half measures. For a peace which would be sustainable, which would be just, which could stay there. And I mean, we have enough of rationality and enough of historical perspective to be able to actually look at what kind of solutions are we discussing and whether they can bring or cannot bring peace. Some solutions which just freeze the territorial gains, or some solutions who are even weakening, some defense capabilities of the country which has been the victim of aggression. Of course, they cannot be bringing sustainable and lasting peace. That's why we must be firm in what we are doing until, in fact, the solution that can bring the good result is there. So what we Europeans must be doing, I think there are several elements which we must be doing. First is we must continue a firm and clear support to Ukraine. That is, you know, a condition without which we cannot move any further. Second, I think, and I hear what Mr. Matulionis is saying, but I think we must continue, you know, on doing things and keeping that strategic autonomy in mind. I mean, strategic autonomy is not necessarily only looked from the military perspective. It's a bit of a wider concept, and there we can, you know, think of critical material, so many other things, so many other elements. So that's why we're keeping it in mind, and we must continue be doing our homework, what we have put forward, all these readiness 2030 issues and so on. This is super important, and I think that by strengthening EU member states in the defense and their defense capabilities, we are of course strengthening NATO itself. And there is, you know, we need to find a way not to contradict with the NATO and so on. And I think we are finding it now. Third, what we must be doing, we must be keeping our own unity very strongly, working on our own unity, because only the 27 we are, you know, strong, and here of course the presidencies are super helping, and here Denmark is now at the helm and doing it. And fourth, I think in any negotiations and solutions, Ukraine must be present, because we are not doing it for Ukraine, it must be done with Ukraine. That is super important, and while with keeping these four things, I think we can achieve the situation and peace which for which we will not worry then.
Ambassador Nikitchenko, how Ukraine can be not only a recipient but equal partner in ensuring this lasting peace in Ukraine and in Europe as well. How do you see the Ukraine's role in all of this?
Well, we are unfortunately kind of at the center of this, because we are the, you know, victim of the aggression and of the war. And at first you said, when you were asking a question, you mentioned that that you didn't refer to it as the war, but you said conflict. So I very much ask you to, you know, call the things by what they are called. So this is the war. This is the war of aggression against Ukraine, and so. Again, unfortunately, we have such a great experience now in conducting war, because this is mostly the war of the drones, and so we have a very much experience in that. We have a very you know, again, huge experience on how to manage the everyday life in the course of the war, and we are very we're not like glad about it or happy, but we share it with all of our partners, and when we share it in all of the spheres, military spheres, civil spheres. So, and when we share it, I would always say that I really wish that you never use it, that it never comes of use to you, but you should, you know this. Also, we have a very large capacities also in military production, especially drones. So this is also a part where we can be a very strong partner for the European Union and for the world in terms of the security of the guarantee. So our drone production now works only on 40%, like on the 40%. So, but if we had more finance, and it's the only thing that is lacking, it is finance. So we could be increasing that, also serving Europe in this extent as well.
Mr. Matulionis, when we talk about Ukraine as an equal partner in this, what lessons can be learned? It was mentioned about drones. Maybe a drone army is some solution. Is that possible in your view?
Well, I wouldn't say drone army, but we need to strengthen anti-drone, counter-drone capabilities within our forces. And as I said, after these two incidents, in our defense forces there is an understanding that we need to spend much more efforts, and also there will be also some calculations what we should maybe redirect some financial resources for counter-drone facilities. But we should not exaggerate only anti-drone. There are some other, as I said, air defense capabilities which are important, and we need also to build our ground forces, and we need to spend more efforts to our Navy and Air Forces. But this so-called Sky Fortress, this is Ukrainian, the special sonar defense system will be implemented also in Lithuania from the next year. In part of the border, but it will be accepted. It's a very effective instrument which could be used for detection, and then if you detect the drone, then to neutralize it.
Ambassador, you wanted to add something?
Just to add, yeah, just to add about Ukraine being a partner and a full actually partner. So first of all, we are actually fighting for Europe. So we are there on the front line of the Europe security and defense right now, and it is because of our troops and because of our soldiers. Children in Europe can go to school, and all of us here can have our morning coffee. And also, this is like, I just remember this, figure, and I wanted to share it with you. It is Ukraine who had destroyed 33% of the Russian fleet, Navy fleet. So I think we can be called, equal partner. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ambassador, and thank you for all the participants of this discussion. And thank you, everybody that came to listen. As we can see, this topic is really huge. There's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot to wait for. So thank you, everybody.